It's time for me to learn how to play Strat-O-Matic Basketball, and, we might as well learn how to play it together. Well, I've actually been planning on doing this for months, but I haven't had the time yet. I've been looking for a solid board basketball game for a long time. As you know, there are quite a few options out there, but I do know that there are a lot of die-hard fans of Strat-O-Matic's game. Well, there are people out there who say that Strat-O-Matic's basketball game is even better than its excellent baseball game. Now, I don't know if I really believe that or not, but if that is true, I really have to see so for myself. Now, I'm not going to pass judgment on this game right away. We've got to learn how to play it first, and then we've got to play around with it a little bit to see how it goes. So let's get learning. While it's obviously useful, the instruction booklet is also a little bit dry, so let's look at it together to see how the game flows. Now, we're only going to worry about the basic game today. In a few weeks, once I've got some experience with the basic game, we'll take a look at the advanced game. So the first thing to understand about this game is how the timing system works. The timing system, if you've ever played board basketball games before, is pretty important. Anyway, it's connected to these fast action cards. I've got some of them here. And yeah, as you can see, they're pretty small and they're pretty flimsy. Well, there are 60 of these cards, and you go through all 60 each quarter. You need to shuffle these cards and put them face down. You put the 2-minute marker card on top of the bottom 10 cards of the deck. Then you count off 20 more cards and put the 6-minute marker card on top of that. And yeah, the fast action cards are a different size than the minute marker cards. That's Strat-O-Matic for you. It looks kind of strange, and honestly, you probably will want to just use something like an Excel sheet after you've tried it once. Well, the math here really isn't all that hard, so every card basically marks about 20 seconds worth of action. You can think of it like that. So that would be about, 5 cards per minute, or 30 cards for 6 minutes, or about 60 cards for 12 minutes. Oh, and if you have to go to overtime, you'll need to use 25 cards for the 5-minute period. That's not in the rulebook, and I couldn't find that anywhere online. Now, to start, you need to choose your starting players. I found the included roster absolutely useless for this. I hate to say it, but you're best off using Basketball Reference to figure out the starters for both teams. Now, the base set only comes with 10 players per team. The additional players will give you a few more, though you're not going to get everybody. You get at least 2 more players per team, sometimes a few more. Yeah, when I was a kid, it was unusual to see NBA teams that played more than 15 different players all year. Well, these days, it's a lot different than that. It's not unusual to see 20 or more players get at least some game time for each team. So keep that in mind if you want to do a full season replay. Anyway, once you've got your players chosen, you line them up around the game board. You then start it off with the jump ball, which comes straight from this chart on the game board. There are no jump ball ratings, not even for the super advanced game. Maybe it doesn't matter. Anyway, if you do a little bit of analysis, you'll realize that the home team has a very slight advantage in winning the jump ball. You roll the 2 white dice together and you add up the results. That tells you whether the home or visiting team won the jump ball. Here, the dice roll adds up to 7, which means that the home team, in this case the Boston Celtics, won. And then, when you figured out which team won the jump, you flip over the first fast action card. You look at the control part of the card. This will tell you which player on the team with the ball, the Celtics, has the ball. In this case, it's the left forward, who is Jaylen Brown. Okay, now comes the tricky part. We need to look at another card to see what happens. This is kind of a confusing time mechanism that we'll come back to in a second. In fact, most of the confused comments I see about this game are about how this timing mechanism works. Okay, so we just learned that Jaylen Brown has control from the control part of the fast action card. Now we draw the next card and we look under the home column since the home team has the ball. The result is shot. Well, that means that the player who has the ball has a shot. And now, for the first time, we will roll the dice. Our roll is a blank and the number 8. Okay, let me talk about this black die here for a second. So it's got 3 blank sides, it's got 2 Ds, and it's got an X. Now, if you're familiar with Strat-O-Matic Baseball, you know what this die does. It's going to tell us whether the results are coming from the offense or the defense. Now, if it's blank or it's an X, it comes from the offense. If it's a D, it comes from the defense, basically. Trust me, this becomes intuitive after you've done it a couple times. So now we look at Jaylen Brown's card. The white dice added up to 8, so we look at 8. We get this, F2. Well, that means that he missed the shot, but he was fouled, so he gets 2 foul shots. The foul is going to go to the player who is guarding him. That would be the left forward for Indiana, which is Pascal Siakam. Now, as you can tell, the basic game doesn't exactly do a great job at differentiating fouls for the defense. There's a bunch of stuff like this that kind of gets glossed over and simplified, so don't worry too much about that for now. Again, we just want to learn the basics and the flow of the game. So we've got 2 foul shots for Jaylen Brown. Well, we roll a 4 the first time around. Now we look at Brown's card under foul shooting. We see that results 2 through 7 and 9 are good, and that means he made the first free throw since 4 is between 2 and 7. So we roll again, this time it's a 10. We look at his card again, 10 is no good, it's outside the range, and it means that we have a chance for a rebound. Well, to figure this out, we're going to have to look at the last fast action card that we discarded. Now, discarded is a really confusing word since the card is actually still being used. I consider it to be the active card, if that helps you understand it. We need to look at the rebound box in that card. Now that's this box here, which tells us that the rebound goes to the offensive center if his rebound rating is 4 or more. Kristaps Porzingis, however, has an offensive rebound rating of 0. Well, when that happens, you need to go to the second rebound result on the same fast action card. See here where it says if not? Well, we follow the if not and see that the rebound went to the defensive center. That would be Miles Turner. It's now Indiana ball. Turner doesn't have the ball, however. We have to look at the control column from the most recent fast action card. You don't draw a new one, the one that you just used, to find that it's with the left forward, who is Siakam. And now we finally flip to the next fast action card. Now anytime the ball changes hands, you flip to the next fast action card, but only after you look to see which player has control. So as you can see, there's a ton of action that comes from a single one of these cards. Now we flip to the next fast action card. Under visitor, we see opponent defense 7. Well, in this case, we're going to need to look at the defensive column of the player who was guarding Siakam. Now remember that Siakam has control. That would be Jaylen Brown. Now we look at what it says by the column 7 under defense on his card. Here it says pass to any +1 shooter for a shot. This means that the Indiana coach can choose any player on the court with a +1 shooting rating or a shooting rating more than 1 and let them have a shot. There are 2 of these players. One is Miles Turner. The other is Tyrese Haliburton. So let's pass it to Haliburton. We roll the dice again, and this time we get a D and 4. So we go to the Boston team defense card. Under 4, we see that the shot is good. That means that the score is now 2-1 Indiana. So that took a little while, but it's going to get easier as we go along and keep playing. And to continue play, we look again at the most recent fast action card under control. The left guard has the ball, and we continue play from there. Well, that's the most basic flow of the game. Like I've been saying, it's pretty simple once you get the feel for it. The fast action cards actually help the game play quickly, and there's a good amount of variety and interaction between the two teams. Now, let's take a look at a few of the type of situations that come up. We're going to start with what the other shot results on the player's cards mean. Okay, look at Jason Tatum's card for a second. Anytime you see an X, the shot was successful. If you see nothing, it means he missed it. Now, we already saw that the Fs mean that he was fouled, but what about the Os? Well, Os are successful shots if he was open, but unsuccessful shots if he was not open. Normally, players are not open. They'll be open if you use a player that normally would guard him to double team another player, or they're open basically if the fast action card says they're open, or if there's a result somewhere else that says that they're open. You also have these split ratings after made shots. When you see this, look at the most recent fast action card. You look at the number on the bottom, the one that is circled. If that number falls within the range, the shot is good, and if not, the shot is no good and you need to figure out the rebound. Now, let's take a quick look at how three-pointers work in the basic game, and this system is really basic. As you can tell from the rulebook, the basic game three-pointer rules are kind of antiquated. Basically, you can decide to shoot a 3 instead of shooting a 2, and that's about it. You look at the three-point rating and you see if the white die roll fits within the range that's given. It's pretty basic stuff, but fortunately, the super advanced version has a more sophisticated system. Okay, let's say that Haliburton is going to attempt a three-pointer. We roll the dice and we get an X10. In this case, he misses the 3. However, if it was an 11, he would have made it. If Miles Turner attempted that 3 and got the X10, he would have made the shot. And if Boston had tried the 3 and we rolled a D10, we would check this Indiana defensive card. The shot would have been good. Now, if Turner attempted the 3 and we had rolled that X11, the result would have been replay. We'll talk about that in a second. Anyway, the cool thing about the system is that team defense means something even for 3-pointers. If your team defense is poor, you give the opponent an incentive to shoot more 3-pointers. If your team defense is good, of course, then the incentive will go away. It's actually pretty smart design, and it flows, I think, really nicely for a basic game. Okay, let's look at a few things that come up. Replay, for example, is a result that indicates that the offense has to try again. You look to find the control player and choose another fast action card. Some players have cards that are filled with Rs, which mean replays. In other words, there are going to be certain players who will end up being offensive liabilities for you. Now, that's not a huge deal, except that 3 replays in a row mean a 24-second shot clock violation. Now, let's look at a few other things that come up from time to time. For example, let's say the fast action card says opponent defense 2. Now let's say that Jaylen Brown is the defender, so you look at 2 under his defensive column. The result is steal and take an open shot. So you then have the defensive player, Jaylen Brown in this case, take an open shot. You roll the dice and you see if the shot was good or not. And if I understand this right, you can also arbitrarily decide that it's a 3-point shot if you won. The rules are a little bit less than clear on that front, but you can imagine that, right? You get the steal, the fast break, and take a 3 instead. Sometimes the fast action card will say something like this: opponent defense 18 shot results. Pretend that Jaylen Brown is still the defender. In this case, we don't roll the dice. Instead, we go down under shot results and look at what 18 corresponds to. He missed the shot, so we go through the rebound procedure. Well, there are also fast action cards that say passing, and they basically work under the same idea. Now look at this one, passing 26. We'll look at the passing column for the player with control. Let's say it's Derek White. That means that a 26 means a pass to the highest rated shooter for a shot. You should know that you can choose which shooter you want if you got more than one with the highest shooting range. So like if there's a tie, the tie basically goes to the coach. However, if it was Jason Tatum, the result would be a turnover. And if it's a turnover, we look at the control box under the most recently used fast action card for the player that now has control, and we go again, drawing the next card. Anyway, let's take a real quick look now at how double teaming works. The game board is set up like this for a reason. It tells you who can double team whom. The players can only double team players playing positions that they are touching. In other words, the right guard can double team the right forward or left guard. However, he cannot double team the left forward because they're not touching. Yeah, this is kind of an arbitrary system, I know. Anyway, if the double team player has a shot, you reduce his shooting rating to 0. If you roll a D, the shot automatically is no good, and any of those opponent defense shot attempts results will automatically miss. However, the opposite is kind of true of the player who you've left open because of the double team. So if that player gets any kind of shot, it is an open shot, and if there's any sort of opponent defense result, the shot's automatically good. So the double team can help you, but it can also bite you if you're not careful. Now there's one more thing to explain, and that's the assist system. Well, the rulebook is kind of funny here. It basically gives assists as like a throw-in for anybody who actually wants to keep those stats. So that's one thing to keep in mind, by the way. You don't actually need to keep statistics, or you could keep really crappy statistics. I recommend when you start playing not to get too bogged down in the paperwork as you start to learn like how the flow of the game works. But the thing about assists is that they're different than everything else. You look at the fast action card, but not the one that's active. In this case, you look at the one that's right before it or right underneath it. Here you see 2 assist ratings, C with a 4.0 and LF with a 4.0. So you check the player's assist ratings to see if they got the assist or not. We start with the center. That's going to be Porzingis, the Celtics center, and he has an assist rating of 2. That's lower than 4, so he did not get the assist. So you move on to the next player listed, which is the left forward, who is Jaylen Brown. His assist rating is a 5, so he did make the assist. But remember that a player cannot give an assist to themselves. You can't like pass it to yourself and get a score and an assist. Also, if the shot came after a steal or a rebound, there's just no assist. It's pretty simple. And honestly, that's really just about it. Each player also has a rest rating on the top right of his card. That rating tells you the number of minutes that the player should rest each game, and remember my rule of 5 fast action cards to a minute. Well, I think that covers everything in the game. I think I covered everything in the manual. If I missed something or other, let me know down below in the comments, especially if you're like an expert at this game. I'm clearly not, at least not yet. It's a pretty straightforward game, though it's a bit tricky to get the flow of it first. Anyway, I'm going to keep playing this for a few weeks to get the hang of it, and then we'll explore the advanced and super advanced options together. I'll see you then.